Shalom, this is Dennis Avi Lipkin. I am here in New York, in the United States, after a very tumultuous 2.5-month tour de force, lecture circuit around the United States and Western Canada. And I'm very excited to do this historic YouTube with the help of my radio TV agent, Jerry McLaughlin. And here we are in New York. I was in New York City yesterday, figuring out how to get into Trump Tower, but it looks like it's going to happen sometime in the future, God willing. I'm trying to reach Donald Trump before I go back to Israel. I'm going back to Israel, God willing. It has been 2.5 months. It's a little bit too long, to resubmit the founders' signatures for the Bible Bloc Party. The Israeli government has demanded certain procedural corrections. It took us 11 years to get 111 signatures, and now it seems like the Israeli government says, oh, well, it's not in the books anywhere, but we require that you redo the signatures because any signature over 6 months is now invalidated. So I have 70 telephone numbers, but I have about 50 people or more who are now ready to sign up for the party. So when I get back to Israel, I have to resubmit the founder signatures and do it all within a 6 months period, meaning by January, February. The good news is that the $36,000 that we raised with so much effort, which are now in the hands of our lawyer, Caleb Myers, and Yair Feiglin in Jerusalem, the money's still there. And so now what we're going to do is re-sign everyone up. The Israeli government also requires that we provide addresses and professions of all the people who've signed up, which sounds kind of silly to me because many people change addresses every few years. Many people also do not work in the profession that they prepared to work in, and that's everywhere in the world. Also, the Israeli government is now requiring that we hold a founders' convention of the political party. We have to prove that we have sent out snail mail registered letters inviting all of the founders who have signed to come into this convention. We also have to prove attendance, that people showed up. These are all procedural obstacles that we can overcome. It's not a problem. This trip that I'm now completing was planned. I had to come, and I had to basically drive from the East Coast to the West Coast and up to Canada and back to the East Coast again. And that's what I've been doing, about 6,000 miles of driving, 10,000 kilometers. Praise God, I made it safely without any accidents, even though the transmission in my car went out. But Toyota was very good about it and fixed it. And I see a little beep there. Okay, so now I'm here in New York. I'm going back next week. And what I'm trying to do is to arrange to meet with someone in the Trump campaign. I'm not so presumptive that I can meet with Trump himself, who I believe will be the next president of the United States, God willing. And I'm ready to work with him. And I think America needs a leader like Donald Trump. And I want to go into Trump Tower and tell them a number of things that are in my books. I've written 7 books. In my first book, Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat, 1997. And in my third book, Islamic Threat Updates Almanac, number 1, which was written in 2003. My 2 books speak very clearly about the Saddam Hussein al-Qaeda attack, which took place in Oklahoma City on April 19th, 1995. The Clinton administration committed treason, in my opinion, by putting the blame on Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols only. They were turncoats, they were guilty, but they were only fall guys, frontmen for Saddam Hussein. And by saying that this was a Christian bomb, a right-wing Christian militia bomb, and blaming the Christian world in America for an attack which was clearly Islamic terrorism, is a calumny. It's a lie. And it's also treason, because 9/11 happened afterwards in 2001 under the watch of George W. Bush. He inherited a faulty system from the Democrats. This whole idea of blaming Christians for an Islamic bombing is treason. And it put blindfolders on the eyes of American law enforcement in the 1990s so that 9/11 happened and America didn't see it coming. Anyway, so I think I want to share that with President Trump, and God willing. And I think he can use this because Hillary Clinton is a package deal with Bill Clinton. And I have to tell you also, I'm asking for your prayers, because many Christians, especially in Oklahoma City, have said to me, aren't you afraid to die? Because anyone who came forward in Oklahoma City in 1995 with the truth about the Oklahoma City bombing was killed by the Clinton administration. We're talking about murder. We are talking about treason. We are talking about covering up very vital information important to the survival of the greatest country on the face of the earth, United States of America. Anyway, so that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Also, the Clinton manipulation of the oil prices after the Monica Lewinsky affair in 1998, 1999. And then afterwards, of course, the price of oil went down from $18 to $8 a barrel. And as soon as Clinton was vindicated from impeachment and did not go to jail, which he should have, all of a sudden the Saudis raised the price back up to 32, 50, 70, 100, 147. Within 10 years, the world economy crashed. And of course, they blamed George W. For the crash of the American economy, when it's very clearly a domino collapse of the world economy because of this oil price manipulation between Clinton and the Saudis and the oil companies. So there are a lot of things going on under the surface that many Americans in the world don't really even know. And that's kind of the world that I live in, where I do know those things. And I feel it's my responsibility to go to Donald Trump and tell him these things. What he does is, of course, his decision. I wouldn't be surprised if Julian Assange comes out later with his revelations and shows that all these things I'm saying are true. So, I'm here in New York a few more days. I have a nice little church Sunday morning. I have a nice home group Monday night. And God willing, Tuesday I'm on the plane to Israel. And like I said before, the first thing I do is, well, of course, kiss my grandkids and my wife and my sons and my daughters-in-law, the whole family. I'm also a grandpa. I also have a family. I'm also concerned about what's going to happen in the future for America, for Israel. And so I'll be going home, and hopefully I'll be in London in November. I may be in China in January. And like I said before, by January, February, the party must be submitted and recognized by the Israeli government. I will then reintroduce the crowdfunding with House of David, of Kurt Landry, and they're going to do the crowdfunding for the party. I stopped that until I get back to Israel and make sure the process is back on track. And this time, hopefully, the Israeli government will accept the signatures and accept the money that we've raised for this $36,000 founder's fee. And God willing, we'll start preparing for the big day, because elections officially are for 3 years from now in Israel. But because of the vicissitudes of Israeli politics, and if, unfortunately, the Netanyahu government falls in a no-confidence vote, elections could be moved up to this coming summer in 2017. We don't know. We never know in Israel. And in the Israeli army, we were taught in the Middle East, you have to learn to expect the unexpected. And so that's what I'm preparing to do. And also, I really, really believe that the numbers of Muslims, who are mostly are good people, but the numbers of Muslims pouring into the Western countries, into Europe, into Canada, the U.S., Latin America, these people, some of them, the Al-Qaeda or ISIS people, are actively cataloging Jewish people and their Christian spouses for annihilation when a war breaks out between Israel and ISIS. And if Russia and its allies, lose against ISIS, which is backed by the United States, ISIS, Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, other fanatic Sunni groups, which in my opinion are all cut from the same cloth. And their plan is to annihilate the Christians, the Druze, the Kurds, the Yazidis, and the Shiites in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, other countries. If all of these things happen and Russia pulls out, ISIS wins. And these fanatic Sunni groups are backed by the West. They're backed by the U.S., by Europe, by NATO. I believe the Russians are backing the Shiites. The Americans are backing the Sunnis. Neither of them are good for Israel, but I think at some stage Russia will not be able to continue its military intervention in Syria. And what it means is that if the onus will be placed on Israel and ISIS attacks Israel, then there will be a parallel attack here in America, Canada, Latin America, Europe, against Jews and against Christians married to Jews, and even Messianic groups or pastors that are pro-Israel and are known to be pro-Israel. All these people together will be targeted for destruction. And so I do predict that there will be millions and millions of people moving to Israel, Jews and Christians. I believe ISIS will give Israel no choice but to expand eventually into Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, northwest Saudi Arabia. ISIS has promised that they're going to kill the king of Jordan. ISIS has promised they're going to kill the king of Saudi Arabia. They've promised to blow up the oil wells. They've promised to blow up the Blackstone. And they've promised to carry out massive 9/11 attacks in the US, Canada, and Europe, which will make 9/11 pale in comparison. So I expect very shocking things to happen in the not-too-distant future. I believe if all these millions and millions of people do end up fleeing from the West to Israel, then we will see the Bible Bloc Party becoming one of the biggest parties in the Israeli, if not the biggest, in the Israeli political system. We're talking about Israel's population growing from 6.5 million Jews and Christians to 16 million or more. I believe that the temple will be rebuilt. I believe that the coming or return of the Messiah, according to the Christian way of thinking, is maybe not imminent, but it's very close when all of these things come to pass. So we have to start thinking about this. And, it says in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And my job over the last 26 years has been to spread the knowledge. And fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of the things that I've been saying have been proven to be true, not because I'm a prophet, but because I listen to my wife, firstly. She monitors the Arabic language broadcast. She's retired now, but she still monitors the Arabic broadcasts every day and gives me the information. Don't forget, Rachel worked for 30 years for Israeli Kol Israel radio. And a lot of the work that she did eventually ended up in the hands of the Israeli leadership, Secret Service, military, and for me. And I share them in the churches. Anyway, so I'm very happy to be alive, very happy to be healthy, very happy to be going back to Israel next week. And hopefully I'll be back in the States after the England trip and after the China trip and back to the United States and Canada, hopefully in sometime in January, February, March. I have no idea. And again, watching with our finger on the pulse to try to understand when the Israeli elections will be and what upcoming events could happen to affect everything in Israel and in the world. So it's very, very pleasing for me that I'm alive, very pleasing for me that I'm on God's cutting edge with this political party, bringing together the Jews and the Christians and all those people who love Western civilization and democracy. So I want to say shalom to everyone, God bless everyone, and God bring peace to the world, terminate the hatred of Satan, Allah, and the things that Islam is planning to do to the great detriment of the human race and the planet Earth. God bless all of you, and shalom from Avi Lipkin, presently in New York.